Hi, I'm Dennis Gage and welcome to My Classic Car. Well, this week we're in Mission, British Columbia for the historic Hot Rod Reunion of BC. This is a huge show. It's at the Mission Raceway Park, which is a club-owned drag strip that's been around for 30 years. There could be 1,000 cars. I don't know how many. It's a lot. But even cooler are some of the earliest cars of hot rodding in British Columbia. This is going to be an amazing show, so let's check these babies out. Hey, well, great to see you, man.
Hey, Dennis, you too.
We're here, yeah, but we go back a ways. I mean, we're here right now at the Mission Raceway Park for the historic Hot Rod Reunion. But you and I first met at the Peach City Beach Cruise in Penticton, BC, and you had that killer resto-modded 190 SL. Now, a lot of people will do that, but you did it, and you did it magnificently. And then we did your show a few years ago, the Canada Day.
At the track, yeah.
At the track, that was great. And this is an amazing event. It's a big car show, but it's this celebration of history.
In the 50s, the car clubs were starting to form, that kind of stuff, and a lot of guys were racing, they're building custom cars. The history here is just amazing. And some of the cars that we've seen, I'm sure you've seen too, are cars that haven't been seen in 20 or 30 years sort of thing. Some have been restored, especially for this show. That's just beyond cool.
And I mean, these are things that were built in the earliest days of hot rodding. I mean, this is like the, early to mid 50s that a lot of these things started.
Yeah.
And, you think of SoCal, of course, what's going on in SoCal. BC's sort of Canada's California anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it was happening here. It was happening here while it was happening there.
Exactly. These guys weren't planning on building an industry out of it. It just kind of happened over the courses of years. They were just so far ahead of their time with what they were thinking, their line of thinking, the artistic designs and stuff like that. And just amazing what they were able to do back then with limited amount of tools.
Yeah, well, and you've got, I guess there's 4 or 5 clubs that are kind of represented here today that do date back to the 50s.
That's right.
And they're still going. I mean, I can't believe it.
Yeah, some of the original members are here too. These guys are in their 90s and they're still driving cool cars.
Yeah, they are. And they built some of the cars that are still considered ultra cool today. I mean,
absolutely.
The thing I dig is that, now it's like, oh, okay, it looks like that, it looks like that. Back then, nobody had ever done it, so everybody was like making this stuff up.
That's right. Back then it was kind of not an outlaw thing, but it's almost like that because it wasn't near mainstream. Nowadays, hot rods and custom cars are more of a mainstream thing, right? Back then it was like some guy in his garage and that sort of thing, and it just blows my mind. Even nowadays that they were able to do that sort of thing. Right?
It's pretty cool. Not only did it bring out some of these historic cars, but there's 700, 800, 900 cars. I mean, this place is packed.
It's full, yeah, that's right. And it's at a racetrack too. You can't get better than that.
You can't get better. There's some rail dragsters that we're going to hear later, I'm sure. New hot rodders, old hot rodders.
Yeah.
Let's get around and look at a few of these. What do you say?
That's awesome.
All right, man, let's go.
Hey.
Well, Mike, this is maybe BC, if not all of Canada's most famous hot rod. This is the Apache, right?
It is, yeah.
I mean, this is a renowned machine here.
Been around for a long time, this car,
So
since the 50s.
Your dad built it, right?
That's right.
And he built it in when?
In 1953 is when it was first built, and then he started showing it. Probably in about 1954 was the first magazine that he was in Carcraft magazine. 1954, and then did all the show circuits, the LA Roadster shows, a couple of those other magazines. I think there was 3 magazines over at Cheers. Wow. But he used to show it everywhere. I mean, he went to a lot of shows in the day.
You probably kind of grew up in this car.
I did, yeah, I did, yeah. Well, an interesting thing, what happened back in the late 50s, early 60s is the car caught on fire.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, so it burnt quite bad. And then Dad kind of put it away, 4 kids, a mortgage. It just got put away for a few years in the garage.
Yeah.
And then when I was about 14, 15 years old, Dad got the juices going again, pulled the car out, we ripped it apart, and he taught me a lot about cars then. That's when I started really learning about the cars.
It's had a few iterations over the years.
A lot, yeah.
But this was, this car, it's clearly channeled, right? I mean, it's just down. And that was, I mean, that's pretty early on to be doing some of this
yeah,
stuff.
he was a bit of a pioneer in those areas. He's a very artistic person. I mean, he used to paint and so forth. So he was an artist for many years.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because that's what I see. Is this thing is it flows, and it's clearly got a lot of design in it. This wasn't just let's build something. Let's channel it. I mean, this is a piece of art.
It is, and that was Dad's thing. Like he hand built most of everything. Like these panels, he built those. These fenders with the nice little butches on there, he built all that stuff.
I love the cycle fenders. I mean, that just looks great. How do you do this peaking?
Well, it's just some rod. You put some small rod in there, and you
weld it in, and then
and then you shape it a little bit with some filler, and then of course, like even a little peak here, just the small details that he just really paid attention to, the very tiny details. And yeah, it's a beautiful
straight
machine.
axle in the front end.
Yeah.
And what's a suspension? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that four-link is a gentleman back in I think 75 is when we got that four-link on there. And the front calipers are out of Volkswagen, and
really?
straight axle, and these dampeners, they're not really shocks, they call them dampeners, just to stop the vibration and the bouncing on that. So that's kind of an old school style front end that's been around for a long time, that type of front end.
Well, the car's gone through a number of iterations, but one of the things that it's really pretty much always sported was that exhaust system.
That exhaust system is the iconic part of this car.
Yeah.
That's something that will never change. I always have that look to it.
What was kind of the influence for that?
Well, I think the influence was the old airplanes. Back in the 40s, they had those airplanes with
the Mustang,
the Mustang,
P-50,
exactly,
P-51s
and that's kind of where he got those kind of ideas from. He would take some things like that and he get transferred over to the car. So,
Yeah, and I've in different iterations, I mean, it's always had the headers coming out.
Always.
You didn't always have the pipe coming around, but that's even kind of interesting how they come out and they come around and they end up in the back.
Go back in.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, they had what they called the Laker pipes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with that. So when we first had the car, Dad's rebuilt it. It had the little caps on the end.
Yeah.
So it would come out, you have the cap, and then he's changed it up a little bit since then.
Well, you really have to bend it around to clear the tire, don't you?
Oh, yeah. You bend it around up through the rear end. The exhaust system is kind of tucked up there, hidden away. It's a small car, and you got to try and put a lot of stuff up underneath it.
A lot going on under there.
A lot going on under there.
It didn't always have this blue interior. Originally, it was.
Well, back in the day, when he was showing it, it was a white interior with red pinstriping. And so that was kind of the style back then. Then when we rebuilt it back in the late 70s, early 80s, we had a black interior, standard black interior. But it's always had the bench seat, always been a 4-speed, well, 5-speed now. And Dad just wanted to change it. He was tired of black, so he said, put the blue in there.
Well, you can sure see she's dropped over the rails, can't you? I mean,
it's been channeled, a good 5-6 inches over the rails just to get it down. You chop, you channel it, get that low look. But, like again, this is like a nice little rod he put in here, weld it in, and then body fill it.
And then just mold it, huh?
And you mold it in like you're building the Mona Lisa or something, just
so you've got some of the magazine articles, and you got this picture of your mom and dad in the
1957.
57, driving to what? Watkins Glen?
Watkins Glen in
That's
this car.
Like, across the continent.
Yeah.
In this Roadster.
In this Roadster.
Pulling a trailer. Just married.
Just married. Yeah. It's hard to believe, eh?
and this, you guys did the Roadster shows all up and down the West Coast.
Yeah,
and you always drove it there.
Always drove it. Up and down. We even LA Roadster show, down to Yakima was a big run we went to quite a bit.
Yeah.
We put a lot of miles on this vehicle. It's got a lot.
And the true rodders do that. But I mean, that is facing the elements.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. I've had some interesting drives in this thing.
I'm sure you have.
You get to the end of the line and it's a little bit sunburned, a little bit sore, a little bit blistered, but a few bugs in the teeth.
But you're okay, right?
But I'm okay because you're hot rodding.
You're running a 5.0 Ford in there. Can we
Ford,
take a quick look at it?
Yeah, it's a 5-liter Ford Mustang motor.
Oh, you know, that looks really good in there. And
Yeah.
it's a Ford and a Ford.
Yeah,
I
Ford and a
respect
Ford.
that.
Father was quite adamant about Fords and Chevys belong in Chevys.
Well, it fits really well in there, surprisingly.
Yeah,
I mean, did you have to, was it tricky or?
It was a little bit tricky getting it in there, mostly on the tunnel for the transmission, but not so bad on the front end, you know, we did pretty good with that. And then of course the engine's a little bit too long, so we had to run you couldn't run a front fan on there, we had to run the auxiliary electric fan on there to keep it cool. But this thing runs so cool, I've never ever had a problem with it overheating.
That's a lot of engine for something this light, really.
Yeah,
that's plenty of engine for
it's
something
a lot,
this light.
Yeah, it'll get up and go pretty quick for such a, you know, it doesn't weigh anything, this little car, you know, so with 300 plus horsepower, it moves out pretty quick. It'll scare you if you want to.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
It's just a cruiser, you know, but I cruise it. I don't.
But I mean, what a piece of history.
It is a real piece of history. You know, this car's been recognized as BC's most historic hot rod. Father was awarded award and put into the Motorsport Hall of Fame for BC. Yeah,
totally awesome. Jim McGowan's Apache. Right?
Yes, well-known car.
Thanks a lot, man. What a car.
Thank you, Dennis. Much
it.
appreciated.
Wendy, another piece of Canadian drag race history here. This is a legendary car too. Your dad built this baby, is that right?
That's right.
And back when?
I'd say probably 61, 62-ish.
Has it always run up in Canada? Is it run in the States or not?
It's run quite a bit in Northwest Washington, and then Bakersfield Winter Nationals in 1963.
Really?
Yes.
How did it do?
Yeah. We came home with a 4-foot-high trophy that was best appearing car.
So it did well.
Yes.
So, you know, I mean, just looking at it, is that all aluminum bodied?
It's aluminum body that my dad made himself.
Pretty much hand formed?
This was his idea, and it was car before its time, right? It's like...
Yeah, it looks that, because I mean, it's very aerodynamic.
I always thought it was the prettiest car.
Well, I heard it got a big trophy.
I'm not biased or anything.
No, not at all, not at all. But it was, I mean, it's really space age looking.
Yeah, a little bit. And probably, I think the only, there might be one other covered dragster.
Oh, really?
Yeah, covered cockpit.
Now, did that actually help aerodynamically, or was it just something that was cool? And
no, but it's pretty cool looking.
It is very cool.
And when you're in there, it's like you're the ghost driver.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's pretty.
And there is one catch too. When you get up to your lights, the yellow through the blue, you cannot take your eyes off those because you won't see them change.
Yeah.
I learned that the first time I drove it.
So, and you've campaigned this too, right?
Yes.
So up until when?
I first learned how to drive this in 2006. We were down at Arlington at a reunion, and my dad, you know, we were showing the car, and my dad comes up to me and he goes, "Wendy," he goes, they want us to start it." And I went, "Oh." And he looks at me and he goes, "Can you push that clutch in?" And I went, "Hell yeah!"
Oh yeah.
And we were literally getting in the car, and he was telling me what to do. "This one's for Jack." And 5 minutes later, I had it fired.
Wow.
Like, it was pretty special.
Yeah, I would imagine it was.
Never ever in my life dreamed that I'd get to do that.
It's you know, pretty heart-stopping. These things are pretty thunderous.
Yeah. When this car first started running, I was like 4 years old.
Wow.
And every time my dad drove it, I was ecstatic when he won. I was pouting when he didn't win. At the end of the track, we'd gather up the chute, and I would ride back on his lap in that car.
that had to be a good picture.
I don't know how we both fit in there, but
man,
we did. He must have been a skinny little guy then.
Yeah, it must have been. So what's the engine?
392 Chrysler Hemi.
Wow. And what do you run for fuel?
110 avgas.
What does it put out? Do you know, horsepower wise, what this thing? I mean,
about 900.
That's respectable. Can't weigh much. I mean, there's not much here. So did your dad build pretty much the whole thing?
He did.
Wow.
He did.
Like-
He had some help, I'm sure.
Sure, but
going
did he
through
have a home
times.
shop or what?
Yeah, he had his own business. It was called Syndicate Scuderia. He built high performance engines.
Oh, so that was his thing, huh?
Yeah, that was
And
his
then,
thing.
you know, I mean, I imagine when you build a car and you win, that's a good advertisement.
Right.
So how long did he run the car?
We started in about 62. He test run this. The police closed down Great Northern Way for him to run it before we went down to the Winter Nationals in 63 in California. And he ran it till about, I'm gonna say 68-ish, maybe.
It looks like a rocket ship. That's what it is. I mean, it really is a cool looking car.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, again, a piece of Canadian drag race history.
It sure is.
So this thing was all done and this was restored by some folks.
4 guys got together on their own time and dime, restored this piece here and this piece here. We're ever so grateful for that. They did a magnificent job. It just looks, you know,
Yeah.
perfect.
It looks
now.
perfect.
It's perfect.
And it is one awesome looking machine. It had to have been a lot of fun growing up around it.
It was.
Wendy,
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Way
you.
cool. Well, Bob, this is a cool car. You're a cool guy, but the whole story of this car, the story of your background, because you're one of the early BC Car Club guys from back in the day. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
What was the club?
North Burnaby Dragons.
North Burnaby Dragons, and
Yeah.
and North Burnaby is where?
And it's Greater Vancouver.
Oh, okay, all right. So when did that club start?
1953 era. Wow.
When did you join?
I came into about 58.
So this is a 52?
52.
52 Ford.
Ford custom
Which I had
line.
to look twice at to see that it was a 52 Ford.
I had arranged from our club. His name was Chuck Chapman, and he was a Sydney roofer. But boy, was he good at lead work.
Oh, so this is all lead.
This is lead.
This is a true lead sled because that's how they did it back then.
That was it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it took a couple of years for him to do all that body work that's been done to it. As I say, 1963 was the first show from British Columbia Custom Car Association in Vancouver.
How'd you do in '63?
63, I went with the Dragons display, and it won first place in semi-custom. Went to the Seattle Roadster show, and it took first place. There must be something good about this car.
It's kind of working for people, eh?
We'll keep this roll on, eh? Then the National Hot Rod Association invited me to their due in Seattle.
Yeah.
And so I got second place there.
Uh-huh. What all was done to this thing? You know, nosed and decked, and then this bumper, and even the back one, they look really clean.
Yes. Where the studs go through for the bolts, they were filled in, and he did it from behind the bumper, right? And then he did the indentation for the license plate.
Yeah. How about the grill setup?
The grill, yeah, he did all the tubular steel.
Really?
Yeah. Taylor Motive, they did the paint job at first in North Vancouver. This one that you're looking at now was done in 2004, as close as what we could do to get the same color.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the things that I dig about this car is in fact the interior of this thing, and it's really cool to begin with, but then the story behind it is even better. Where did you have this done?
In Tijuana, Mexico.
Tijuana, Mexico. And you drove this car from Vancouver down to Tijuana to have this interior done.
Exactly. For $160.
160 bucks. In what year? 62?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I still have the proof of the bill.
So was it a gang of you guys or just?
Yeah, there was the 4 of us.
Yeah?
Yeah. It only took them 2 days and
Really?
it was done.
Headliner and all?
A headliner.
Because I mean, that is
Yeah.
really slick. And you know, that in 62, that had to be quite a looker.
It was, yeah. And I think that had a lot of bearing on the success of the
So,
car in
just
competition.
out of curiosity, in 62, in a 52 Ford Custom, how long does it take to go from Vancouver to Tijuana?
30 hours, I think it was.
Oh, you guys are
Yes.
storming it.
Yeah, we always had a driver going and one sleeping.
Man, oh man, because it's held up magnificently. Is it a vinyl or is it a leather?
Yeah, it's vinyl.
It's vinyl.
Yeah.
Gee, I can't believe it's held up
Yeah,
that
it's
well.
vinyl. It's
The carpets too? Did they do the carpet?
yeah. I just about had those changed about 10 years ago, and I decided not to.
No, I think they're too.
No, just leave it the way it is.
Yeah, man. Oh, jeez. Bob, I love this. I was just Tijuana. It's a Tijuana taxi.
Yeah, there you go. It would do well down in Cuba.
And this is Merc, isn't it?
Yeah, 54s.
54s Merc. And then we get back here. These have got to be Packards.
Yeah, they're Packard inverted. Yeah.
And
you know where they came from, Dennis? On the road trip I was down with.
Oh, the Tijuana trip?
On the Tijuana trip.
You
I
found
spotted
these?
these in some garage. And I said, oh, can I buy those? She said, oh, sure.
Of course you can. All you have to have is the money for it.
Yeah.
Well, and Frenched in,
And so I
that was
bought 'em back,
kind of early on for that. And you also Frenched in, I noticed the antennas
Yeah,
are Frenched.
dual antennas.
And the thing that's kind of cool about that, I think, is that little bump out there.
Yes.
And is that all lead too, I would imagine?
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's go see what engine you're running. All right, let's have a look at this. Oh, gee, I like the copper color in there. I wasn't expecting that. Was it always copper colored under the hood?
Yeah, no, it was a blue that they had because of the car being blue, and it was a tinted blue that they had back there. You see, it never ends because the next thing I wanted to get was disc brakes. So those are relatively new.
Yeah, but are you
Being
still
disc
running a
brakes.
generator?
I'm running a generator.
Wow.
I was going to change, and the guy, the mechanic, said, leave that generator.
Well,
Okay.
when you opened it up, I went, that's a generator. Wow, I wasn't expecting that either. But it's a 350 Chev, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, crate engine. The radiator, I was going to do something. He said, no, leave the radiator. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on under there. A lot of interesting features. This car, Bob, I just think is, I think it's cool to begin with. But I got to tell you that the history of the Dragons Car Club. This is some BC royalty. Hot rod royalty right here. Well, hey, Bob, thanks so much, man. It's just an honor. This is so cool. You're so cool. Thanks a lot.
Very welcome. Appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Glenn, this is another one of the earliest hot rods to come out of BC, right? When was this baby built?
This baby was started, I'm sure, it was fenderless around 56, 57, and then completed in 59.
So it goes way back.
Way back.
And it's probably one of from what I'm hearing, it's one of the best known rods in Canada.
Yeah, so it's got some incredible history here on the West Coast. So it's had some owners that have been very colorful, I guess I could say.
And now you're the colorful owner of it.
I'm the keeper now, yes.
So tell me about this baby. It's a 32 coupe.
It's a 32 coupe, a 3-window, and it's got a beautiful 8-inch channel in it, as you can see. It was done in the late 50s, finished in 59, I believe, by West Coast Customs out of Vancouver. And Ross Jackson was the owner at that time.
It is channeled so far. It looks like it's chopped, but it's not, right?
No,
it's just dropped so far.
Yes.
That the roof looks like it's got to be chopped, but you got a full windshield there.
Yes.
Man.
And everybody brings that up. Is it chopped?
Really?
Yes.
Because I mean, at its height, you almost think it has to be. But an 8-inch channel is about as far down as you can go without building a basement.
Yes, yes.
So this was built back in the late 50s. How long have you had it?
I've had it since '84.
Well, that's quite a while.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
have you redone it? It's probably been redone a few times.
Yes, it probably has. I know the different owners up to me. I've had conversations with them, and you know they've done their thing through it. But yes, I went right through it and body off the frame. Originally, the body was welded to the frame.
Oh man.
So we kind of dissected it carefully and got it off the frame, and now it's removable. And
did you actually have to cut it? Cut the weld to get it off?
Yes.
Oh man,
Yes.
now that's a lot of work.
Yes.
Holy cow. So, so how long did that take?
Oh, it took us 2 years.
Wow.
Yes.
What I love about this is the canted grill, because you know 32s look a little bit
Blocky.
yeah, a little bolt upright,
Yeah.
you know, and I've always liked to drop it back a little bit. And is that actually a Thunderbird T-Bird
It
engine?
is, yes.
312?
312, yes.
Did it always sport a T-Bird engine?
In '59, Ross had Ross Jackson, the owner, had a 47 Merc, high performance Merc in it. And then when he went to sell it, he couldn't part with the Merc, so he put the 312 in.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You know, this is an interesting setup here. Single master cylinder, but you have two of them. Do you have is that your dual master cylinder for the brakes?
No, one's for the brakes and one's for the clutch.
Oh, okay, hydraulic clutch, but
Yes.
still a single master cylinder.
Yes.
Yeah, always.
Yes.
That's always thrilling.
Yes, isn't it? It's a thrilling car to drive.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
I bet it is. And is that the exhaust period, or do you
No.
cork them and you can go out the back?
Yes, I got, I call them my Mickey Mouse ears that I can take out and go with open headers, or I can, and it just, we ran the exhaust out through the back.
Well, that's probably a lot easier on the paint job.
Yes, yes.
Running the exhaust out the back.
Yeah.
So, no chop, even though it looks like it, but again, just so far down. What all is this? Pretty much what the interior was?
This is
59.
Yes, it was black and white. We kind of tried to replicate a little bit of what it looked like in '59 to keep that heritage. So the only thing that I changed a little bit was is just the updated gauges and updated steering wheel.
And it's a 4-speed, or what's she?
It's a 5-speed Morgan Warner that I put in. When I received it, it had a 4-speed top loader. But I went for the Morgan Warner for the 5th gear so I can drive it on the highway.
Sure. Did that fit in pretty well?
Yes. There was actually, you could order a bell housing adapter that just everything went really smooth.
Man, I mean, it's really all of the kind of all the classic hot rod tricks.
Yes.
But
yes.
before they were the classic hot rod tricks.
Yes, they were way ahead of their time through this car, when they built it.
It looks wider too. It hasn't been. No,
it hasn't been widened or anything. with that channel, it just makes it look so beefy.
Beefy, and it looks chopped. But again, I mean, I'm almost surprised you're not throwing sparks off the running boards. I mean, an 8-inch channel is long. That's a deep channel.
Feels like you're in a go-kart.
This thing's been in all sorts of magazines and probably every indoor car show up and down the West Coast.
The welcome that I've received from it when I've shown it has just been incredible, and everybody's seen it in shows. But it's been in the Motorama. P&E had that car show going for years. The Carcraft magazine carried it in 1960. That's great to see that it's getting the recognition that it deserves.
Yeah. Well, and it was
for surviving.
The Apache's sitting right there.
Yes.
This thing was like it's a Apache contemporary.
In the last 4 years, the history of it's really starting to come to.
Is it finding you, or you have to?
It's finding me because I'm out driving it again. Like I've
you
restored
got
it.
this car? Oh,
Yes.
man.
Oh my God.
And it didn't have a name either, right?
It's had a few.
But now it's
Yeah.
just yours. That's
It's
the
just-
name.
It's mine.
It's mine.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Glenn,
just call it the little coupe. Yeah.
it's just awesome. Thanks so much for bringing this piece of history out. That's fabulous.
Gotcha.
man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to talk.
Love it. Well, Court, this is a, fairly radical custom even today.
Yes.
But this car was built back in...
Well, life as a custom started in 1958. And really, it took over 2 years to get to the stage where it was roadworthy.
Now, it's what, a 51 Chev, right?
It's a 51 Chev.
Hard to tell.
Well, the whole plan was that it could be a modified car that was designed to look as though it's always been that way in the first place. It had to look right. We didn't want it to look modified. We wanted it to look as though it should have been built
That's what
that
it was
way.
supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why we would sit down and decide. In the modifications, we weren't going to employ any of the contemporary gimmicks of the day. The Appleton spots, scoops, louvers, skirts. It had to look as though it was
what it was supposed to be.
Original Detroit product.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty obsessive.
Well, both Jack and I were concerned about something that we didn't want the slate of us to get a bit gimmicky. It had to have a classic elegance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it shows that. So started in 58, took a couple years to get it
Yes.
to this state or even close
no,
to this?
no.
Oh, no.
Well,
Oh, no.
It was basically a custom up to the stock for an end
Okay.
in gray primer.
When did it get these headlights then?
Oh, well, again, Jack Williams, who built the car, the absolute master craftsman. He could do more with the metal than anybody could imagine. And we were sitting in a couple of apple boxes in the shop one day. We're deciding, first of all, how are we going to change the front end to match up what was done with the 56 Packard Clipper taillights and the other work done to the car. Came to the conclusion that 58 Lincoln quads would look good. And then we're deciding whether it's going to be canted as the Lincoln was or vertical. So eventually we tacked them in place in a couple of the ways and decided to settle that this was the best harmonious way to blend with the
They
car.
are vertical. At first I thought there was a slight cant. There's really not, is there?
Not really, other than the fact there's a left and a right shape. So if you look here,
Yeah.
the taper is slightly different.
That may be what makes it, gives it that, oh geez, that cant or not?
Exactly,
Yeah, they are not symmetrical. They're mirror images.
they are.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So that all worked out nicely. And then of course the stock top of the grill bar was then blended in
Yeah.
to the bottom to give it a sense of form and harmony.
How much of a chop do you have on
Well,
it?
roughly 4.5 inches. Actually, it's a blend between, say, 3 3/4 and 4.5, depending upon. There's a bit more of a chop at the rear than at the front to
Give it that
flow. Yes,
That impression of speed even
Sure.
sitting still.
sure.
You were saying earlier you found in working on it that this was an Eastern car, so it had a lot of rust in it.
yeah.
And this thing's got almost all new panels.
Yes, all factory parts.
All factory, of course, but what was left of the original car after you did all that?
The firewall, the roof, and the trunk lid.
That was it.
That was it.
Well, those
And of
things are
course,
all,
the frame.
yeah, they were all pretty far away from the salt, so they,
Of course,
yeah,
yes.
right, yeah.
Sure.
Well, now the interior, which this has obviously all been restored and everything. The interior
Yeah.
has not. But is this what the interior was?
Oh no! This is 58 Thunderbird interior seats
Right.
in the front. The rear seats are handmade out of wooden bucks to give a similar pattern in design and shape.
But what did it look like when you had it?
Well, originally it had the original mohair covered bench seat
Yeah.
and nothing else.
That was it, really, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
Matter of fact, when we first put it on the road, there was no interior, no headlining except for that upholstered bench seat with basically a steel cage, and was like driving a drum.
Well, then obviously you moved on to finish the whole thing out, because this thing did the car show circuit for a long time.
Yes, but it wasn't finished. We never did finish the truck.
Oh,
And that's the reason why at the World's Fair Auto Show, when the judge said, this car is possibly the finest bodywork we've ever seen, he said, I can't find any lead in it. I said, well, no, there's less than 6 ounces of lead in the roof.
really?
And the front quarters, front fenders, and the rear fenders, they're all hammer welded.
Oh my gosh.
Before I put the headlining in, you could look at the roof, and there are no weld seams because Jack hammer welded everything.
Yeah, like even this?
Oh yes,
And the Packard, these are Packards, aren't they?
yes, 56 Packard Clipper taillights. Where the seconds join, it's as smooth inside as it is outside.
Wow.
Oh, and also, the chrome panels
Yeah, yeah.
that you can see around here, this was fabricated. Jack Williams made up milling tools to shape and form the male and female grooves in steel panels, rolled the edges, welded them. In fact, that's to match the stock front panels, which are stainless steel.
Wow.
But once again, it had to look as though it was done by the factory.
So you've had, this been many magazines and many like indoor shows from back in the day too, eh?
Quite a few. Well, actually, 1962, 63, the car appeared in Rod and Custom, Carcraft, and Hot Rod magazine.
And you never named this car,
No.
right?
So I only refer to the car as 51 Chev updated.
Updated.
Yes.
Well, I tell you, it's a pretty slick car with again, you know, quite a pedigree and quite a lot of Canadian history. Well, Court, I just think it's great that you've did it in the first place and kept it alive all this time. It's a magnificent car.
Dennis,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is such a pleasure.
Wow. Well, Lauren, I dig this car. This is another one, sort of the theme here, historic hot rods.
Historic.
This is another historic one. And I tell you, you know, I see this, oh, that's a nice 32, and not a 32.
No, it's a Model A body on a rebuilt chassis, a Del Gary chassis, but it's got 32 fenders, and it's got Model A rear fenders, but it's sort of a cross. It's a cross. Most people think it's a 32 because of the grille and the fenders.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
But this is another one built back in the late 50s?
Yes, yeah, this car was started in 1958 by Jack Williams.
Did Jack Williams build every hot rod in BC, basically?
Basically, in the 50s and 60s, he had his hand on everybody's car.
It sounds like it. I hear his name over and over and over.
That's right. He's the guy. He was the guy. And he started his car in 58 for my friend and neighbor, Dave Shorter, who was the original owner of the car. And he was working on it, and then he turned it over to Jack, who really kind of built the car. And Dave was a machinist. And it's got a small Dodge 270 Red Ram, 55 Red Ram.
The baby Hemi.
The baby Hemi. And so there's no real speed equipment for it. So Dave had a pattern made, and he was a machinist. So he machined the manifold, and he machined the V-drive gears and stuff like that, the belt drive. And Jack sort of, I guess, put the car together mostly. And but Dave did a lot of work on it too. And when the car was finished in 1961, it won Rod's sweepstakes at the BC Motorama and BCCCA Motorama, and then it was featured in November '61 Hot Rod magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a really cool car. And then he was getting married and said, I'm going to sell it. So of course I bought it.
In when?
And late '62, '63. Then I drove the car and raced it down at Arlington, Washington. I ran over 100. I got 104. I got one of the coveted 100-mile-an-hour crests. But I usually ran in the low 14s, high 13s. And so I did that. And then in '65, it was originally painted a brown. And in '65, I tore it down, and Ed Lowen, who is still racing his 32, he repainted the car and everything, and I put it back together and changed a few things. Then I sold it in '74. The fellow who bought it in '74 took the engine out and put a Chev in it, and then the car disappeared.
Oh.
When I was retiring, I was looking at getting another car, and Jack Williams knew where it was, and so did Ed Lowen, and they were both telling me where it was. It was in a garage and trailer out in Port Kells here. So I went and got it, and there was motor transmission and everything was all missing.
Oh, so it wasn't like this?
No, it's just in pieces.
Oh, man.
And the chassis was chopped up, but all of the body and fender, everything was there, and the Mercedes gauges, which are really rare, 61 SL Mercedes gauges were there. Yeah, so I got all this stuff back, and then I had the chassis built, and I did find the original engine, but the fellow was reluctant to sell it, and hummed and hawed, and I had picked up this really good 270, and Jack, he really wanted to do it again anyways, because the car meant a lot to him back in those days, so we put it back together, and he had the old drawings for the V-drive, and we cast another manifold.
Really? I mean, you cast the manifold and everything, and so this isn't the exact engine, but it's the same.
The same. It's the same blower drive, and he had the original drawings for the V-belt drive. And we went back for the V-belt drive because that was original rather than going to a Gilmore.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then the front water pump is a Chev, because on these Dodges they have like a big crab water pump mount system. So we took that, and actually the timing cover that's on his dragster, he made those. So what we did was he took the original timing cover, he did, and then put wings on it. So the timing cover and the motor mounts are all part of the front. That's how that's mounted on the front, because there's no way of mounting these other than that, unless you make something up.
I mean, that's really creative.
Yes,
I mean, there's
beautiful.
some serious engineering.
Oh, it is.
And it's artistic too.
This bypass is all jack. That motor mount, you can't see much of it because the timing cover is the same one that's on his dragster, but just put feet on it.
Wow. And is it running a single 4?
It's running a single 4. I had two small 4s on it, two 390s, the smallest you could get, because it
just space, right?
So it would look good in that. But it ran too rich at an idle. It ran good going, but it was always an idle. So I just put a 654 on it, and it runs beautifully.
And what's the blower?
671 GMC. Yeah.
I mean, and you said you're doing over 100 in this. That's got to be kind of thrilling.
It was, but I was only like 22,
so you didn't know any better, right?
Now I'd think twice.
Exactly. Well, it just, I mean, my goodness, again, Jack must have been quite a guy.
He was amazing. He was amazing.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
And he builds some incredible cars. How about the interior? Is that the same as?
No, the old interior was, the seat was quite high and you sat up above the, so this is a new seat I bought.
And these are the Mercedes?
There's a Mercedes 190 SL.
You know, those are worth a fortune.
I know they are. Well, when I found them, the gauges themselves were really in good shape, but the bevels were all rusted and everything. And so I was going to get them redone in California, and they were about $1,000 to redo them. And then the fellow in Victoria who does all of I think he's retired now, but he used to do all of the really high-end Mercedes and international cars. Yeah. He did all that work for me and stuff. And when I was looking, before I thought, well, I'll spend $1,000 on them, but maybe I'll see what they're worth. And I talked to Mercedes, and they wanted $2,000 each for the big ones and $1,000 each for the small. And I said, oh, you don't have them, you have to make them. And he said, yes, we have to make them, so they're really expensive. Unless you really, the only people buying them are people restoring.
Are they VDOs or?
Yes.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
And do they run? See, does the tach run backwards or?
No, it
goes to
the right.
Okay,
they're all mechanical.
Oh,
the speedometer and the tach are mechanical.
They're just they make that.
It does, yeah. So those are the things so I had all that, cut that, and then the body and everything else is the same.
And then how about the fenders? Were they sculpted at all? Are they pretty?
These ones, these are Model A fenders. These are being shortened up. Jack did that when he originally built the car, and the pan he made for the back because it's a straight back.
I mean, this baby is just priceless.
Yeah, it is.
And for you to have the history you have with it and be able to find it even in pieces, and then bring it back to life is just.
It's a really nice driver. It's got 4-wheel disc brakes, and
oh man,
I've driven it to California 3 times.
You're my hero.
My wife even goes.
Well, you got a top on it.
Yeah, I got side curtains too, and that makes a big difference.
It sure does. Oh, Lauren, this is just magnificent. Yeah. Did it have a name back in the day?
Well, when it was originally built, it was called the Little Brown Jug.
Okay.
And I don't know if in the Hot Rod magazine it says that or not, but that's what it was brown then. But I've never really called it anything.
It's Lauren's car.
Yes,
man, this is awesome.
Thanks, Dennis.
Model A that looks like a 32. Well, Jackson, it's good to see you again.
Yeah,
it's been a while. The last time I saw you, I was shooting with your dad, John Foxley, Johnny Hot Rod. You were in the background. You're about this tall, and you were playing on arcade Pac-Man?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
I think you went through on a skateboard too.
Yeah, a skateboard going by, yeah.
So you're all grown up now.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 15.
You're the ripe old age of 15, huh? And this is your first car?
It is my first car, yeah.
And you and your dad kind of built this as a project?
Yeah, it was kind of a COVID car.
Oh, really?
Just had to build something.
Then what are we going to do? Oh, I don't know. Let's build a car. What do you say? Yeah, why not? So it's a 55.
Yeah.
And you guys did kind of this mild, kind of hot rod, custom, gasser almost.
Gasser style, yeah.
Yeah. So what all did you do? Was it always a two-door post?
No, it was actually a four-door before, and it didn't have any of the radius wheel wells.
How did you do the two-door conversion?
The stock two-door doors are longer. The whole wheelbase and everything is the same, but the doors are just different. So you cut it out, and you move the post back, and then just put a new door in.
So these are two-door doors?
Yes.
Did you have to put the dip back in?
No, we went to this guy's house. He had a pile of 55 parts, and we got a little quarter piece back there, and we just kind of patched it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things that always kind of amazed me about your dad, because he's got a great eye, and he really knows how to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that,
Yeah.
and, you know, and make it all work.
Yeah, put it all together.
Well, and I also, this is sort of a trick of your dad's, but I've always dug the lace paint
Yeah.
stuff. Now, were you involved in shooting this or not?
Yeah, I was there the whole time. I was involved with the color, but of course he had to put his spin on the paint.
Of course.
The lace and the fade, which looks great in my opinion.
I do too. You know, it's a real subtle fade, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. It's just on the bottom and on the roof there,
Oh,
yeah.
man, you know, you have to look almost twice to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So-
And a little bit on the lace as well, just a tiny bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it you actually use? Is this like a curtain or something?
Well,
or-
we went to like a fabric store, just
Yeah.
like a dress fabric. And then you just lay it out and then you mark it all and then
Yeah.
you just spray over top of it.
That's it.
That's it.
And then you've got to
Yeah.
clear the heck out of it afterwards. Yeah, it's just so really though you've kept, other than taking two doors out of it,
Yeah.
you've kept it pretty stock, right?
Yeah, the no front bumpers and
Right.
everything, yeah.
Now, did you do any radiusing on the fronts or just the
No,
back?
just the backs,
yeah?
just the backs.
Well, you know, and I dig the interior, which is redone, but in kind of a stock looking pattern.
Yeah,
And-
it's just a nice sleek black.
Yeah, and a classic 55 dash, radio delete apparently. You added some gauges. And you're running a 4-speed in this?
4-speed manual.
So you got that all figured out, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I learned stick on this car.
Really?
Yeah.
But I dig you can't tell that this was a 4-door. You used 2-door doors.
Yes.
Right? And then you had to move the post back?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So you had to cut it all out, move it back, and then like redo the bottom rocker panels and all that.
Jeez. Well,
Yeah.
this radius job, I think it's really good. You did the roll on it and everything too?
Yeah, just a little pipe and then body work over top and just sand it nice and
And
smooth.
you tack weld it in or what? Wow. And then just body filler?
Yeah, and then just sand it nice and smooth.
And you're right, again, you have to kind of look twice, but that fade, comes through on the radius, comes through on the rockers.
Yeah.
And again, lace back here. Did you lace the roof? Doesn't look like it.
No. We had only one piece of lace, so we did the back first, and let it dry, and then put it back on the hood and did it again.
You can do that?
Yeah.
I am shocked, actually. I didn't know it would.
We're experimenting.
And then you cleaned up the bumper.
No bumperettes or anything, just nice and smooth.
And did you pick the color you wanted it?
Yeah.
I wanted a blue car.
Yeah, we've had a green, purple, red, blue is the next.
Well, I was going to say, I was thinking about the color palette at your dad's place, and there wasn't any blue.
Yeah, no blue.
There is now.
There is now.
So, I don't know, maybe a 350 under the hood. Let's go look. Oh, hey, I wasn't expecting that. Looks like a 350.
Yeah, it's a 350 Chev, yeah.
I figured we'd have the kind of orange block and all that. I love your intake there, kind of that horn, gold valve covers look good. Yes.
Yeah.
Jackson, this is really clean. I like this.
Thank you.
So how was it working with your dad?
It's pretty fun, yeah.
Is it? Yeah. He's a pretty fun guy,
Yeah.
actually.
Learn a couple things, yeah.
It's so cool that, and the father-son project is, it's something that will be with you your whole life. I mean, maybe not the car, but certainly the memory of it.
Yeah.
Well, close this baby back up, Jackson. This is cool. You don't even have a driver's license yet, do
Not
you?
yet, no.
You're working on it, though, right?
Yeah.
When you finally get it, you're going to be probably the only kid on the block with a 55 Chevy, lace paint, breathed on by Johnny Hot Rod himself. Yeah. How cool is that, huh?
It's very cool.
Jackson, you're a lucky man. Thanks a lot, buddy. Cool car.
Thank you.
So Sylvia, you are one of the earliest female drag racers in Canada. Is that true?
That's correct.
So dating back to
I would say 56, 55.
55.
In that
And
range,
where
yeah.
did you start running?
Well, I met my husband, and he was into cars so much that I was just falling in love with the whole scenario. And he knew I loved to drive. And he said, "You're the driver. I'm the fixer-upper.
Wow.
I'll be the builder." We'd go out to Abbotsford. We could run 4 cars at a time. And somebody would start us off like Harry Dushesky or one of the boys. Just run down the track, quarter mile. And then as time went by, we got timing lights and things like that. We had a bus, a school bus, old one. and we used to keep all our stuff in. and go
So
out
you
there.
weren't racing on a drag strip. You were,
Yeah.
Where were you racing?
At the Abbotsford Airport.
Oh, at the
old-
airport. So
yeah.
you would come and make it a drag strip.
We did. We drag raced in, different type of cars. And we ended up with a 69 GTO Judge.
Oh, really? Right.
That was, I would say, that was my favorite car.
Yeah, pretty cool car.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So, of course, you wanted to go fast, so you got to do a little this, a little that, and we did. And she did very well. She ran 11 9s, 12s,
Oh, wow.
and I was very proud of her. And I could almost take her wherever I want. I go to Cobble Hill, I'd trailer it myself, take it off, run it, have some fun. And run it at here, in the old track. Had a lot of fun with it. And that was #1 car. And then as time went by, I used to watch the wheel standers come up, and it really fascinated me because I wanted to run an alcohol car. But my husband, he said, "You're not running a funny car." No. Richard Schroeder and Bill Shrewsbury are the ones that convinced me I should try it. And I said, "How am I going to just try this?" He said, "Well, we know someone, so Chuck Pull is selling his truck, and why don't you go down there and have a talk with him? And he's going to come up here." So sure enough, he came up here and we did have a good talk. And he said, "I think you're going to be fine, Sylvia. Just get in it and drive it."
What is this, a rail?
This is a truck, 68 Dodge truck.
Okay.
And it had actually, he had a Dodge engine blown in it, just one. He had a dummy, but only one worked, so it was easy to drive. Then my husband got the idea, no, we want 2 engines. Okay.
2 engine.
Yeah, 2 426
Wow.
Hemis.
Wow.
Injected on alcohol.
Well, that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
And you were driving that.
And I was driving it.
The wheels never came off the ground, did they? On
The front came up, you'll see on the pictures. Oh yeah, right up. I was the tallest. I was 11 feet. I was the tallest wheel stander.
you could really bring it up.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Last time I was out here was in 2004.
What were you running?
I was running my 87 Buick Turbo Grand National. One of the hottest stock cars that Detroit built at the time.
How fast were you?
Well, in the quarter, 12.2 seconds, 111 miles an hour.
That's respectable.
Yep.
Very respectable.
For a basically stock car,
yeah.
just super tuned. That's
Well,
all.
they were just amazing. They came out of
Yeah.
the factory pretty
Yeah.
much like that.
Yeah, when I first took one for a test drive, a used one, I thought, wow, I gotta have
I gotta
this.
have one of these. That's mine.
Yeah. In their day and 80, I'm sticking to the track.
Me too.
It's a good compound they got.
Larry, you got a little history with
A little,
this whole
for sure.
little for sure for this whole hot rodding and custom car thing up here in BC. So how far back do you go with this?
I go back 70 years.
70.
70 years to the day they started the BC Custom Car in January of 1952.
That's about the same time it all kind of was kicking off in the U.S.
Pretty much, not within a couple of years of them, yep.
Were you sort of modeling after that, or was this kind of your own thing?
Put it this way, there was some modeling after it. I mean, we were a couple of years maybe behind the California boys, but there was a large hot rod fraternity before the club started in the Greater Vancouver area.
I don't think a lot of people think about that. Think that there's all this hot rod culture up north of the border, but there really is, and it goes back a long way.
Yeah, it goes back into the late 1940s. Yeah, we'd see the odd lowered 32 cruising up the main drag sort of thing, and then that just evolved, and finally guys said, hey, we should get a club together. We were one of the first, if not the first, and by the end of 1952 we were reputed to be the largest car club in North America with about 300 members.
Wow. And then did the other ones, were they offshoots of that, or did they kind of greenfield spring up themselves?
Yeah, they sprung up themselves, yeah.
And then were they then kind of aggregated into an association, or?
Yes. The BC Custom Car tried to get them under their wing sort of thing, but that didn't seem to work too good. So in the late 50s, the BC Hot Rod Association started and amalgamated these other clubs, yes.
This was kind of the voice for all of the clubs.
Yes.
Was there a lot of racing going on back then, or?
We were able to race at Abbotsford Airport through the Department of Transport. They let us use it from 1952 to 1957, and then they closed it to us. And that was when we tried to raise money to build the first Mission Raceway, which was just about a mile that
Over
way.
there, right.
Yeah.
This is the second one. Well, the
Yes.
first one was built when?
1965.
65.
92, this one opened. The other one shut down about 1978. So there
Yeah, it was really quite a
that's
gap
a long
in there.
time
It really
without
was.
a drag strip when you're
And
just-
the interesting thing about this is actually owned by the association?
Yes.
Right, is that right?
Yes.
And maintained, I mean, that's y'all's, this is y'all's track, right?
Yep.
You know, that doesn't sound like something that's gonna work, but it has now for 30
yes,
years.
amazingly it has, yes.
And you're still playing with cars. And you're just a kid, of course. How old are
Of
you?
course, 91.
91.
It's
Still
hard
play-
to say that because I feel 70.
I know,
right?
it still plays with cars.
Yeah.
Well, keep it up. I hope you do this for the next 91 years.
I hope so too.
Larry, thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, Dennis. Nice talking
Pleasure.
to you.
Well, like California, hot rodding started in the late 40s in British Columbia, specifically in Vancouver. It was a real mecca for hot rodders. And the BC Custom Car Association was formed in 1952. The British Columbia Hot Rod Association, 1957, and the Pacific International Street Rod Association and Langley Loafers 50 years ago. So there's a lot of anniversaries to celebrate on this day. And the idea was to bring together all car owners with classic cars and collector cars, but specifically the hot rods and custom cars from back in the day, from 60, even 70 years ago. And I think the most famous custom car ever to come out of British Columbia was owned by Cord Elliott, who's here today. It's a 1951 Chevy, chopped and built by the late Jack Williams. Jack Williams' Syndicate Scuderia dragster is here. It was voted the most beautiful dragster in the world at one point. His daughter Wendy drove it on the Mission Raceway's track here today, which is amazing. Other cars that are here include the Apache, built by Jim McGowan in 1952. It is the most iconic hot rod in Western Canada, in my view. It is just as timeless today as it was when it was built in 1952. It's a 32 Ford Roadster. Those are just iconic cars for this part of the world, and I would say anywhere in the world. These are beautiful cars. Lorne Kerr in 1962 did a 1930 Model A with a Dodge Hemi in it. Lorne is a retired high school principal from Vancouver. I don't know what his students thought of that, but I can think of this car as being one of the most beautiful roadsters in existence. And it's here, and of course Lorne's here with it. And then Bob Hedrun. Bob took his family's 53 Ford, bought it from them. It was just a four-door sedan, had it customized, and then drove it all the way down to Tijuana. And Avila Upholstery, in something like 30 hours, did a whole upholstery job, trunk, headliner, full interior, for $160. I mean, that's a riot by today's standards. Who does upholstery in 30 hours and not for $160, maybe $160 an hour? So these are all iconic cars, and as I look around, there's piles of smiles. Everybody today is enjoying the cars. People are meeting each other that they haven't seen in years. And for a lot of us that have been part of the scene for a long time, it really makes our heart flip to see these cars all in one place on one day. And thank you for being here.
You've done this before, haven't you?
Once.
He's pretty good.
Well, thanks, Dennis. It's an honor, really. It's
Thank
an
you,
honor to
Alan.
know
Thanks
you
a lot.
both. And it really is. Thanks for being here
There
to
you-
celebrate a lot of our history here.
Hey, the historic Hot Rod Reunion of BC was an amazing show. I know I saw some stuff I've never seen before, and if they ever do this again, I'm coming back.
Hi.